Dan Lanning, dude. Dan Lanning, I don't know if y'all saw yesterday, catches the ball on the wing. Probably crossover dribble. Gets to the middle of the lane. Just rises, elevates, goes all the way back, tomahawk, dunks all over Colorado. Someone asked him, what was your reaction when you heard Colorado was leaving for the Big 12? And essentially, Dan Lanning just kept it a buck with him and said, I had no reaction. What have they won here? I'm paraphrasing, but that was pretty much what he said. I don't think they've won anything here in a minute that's impacted the conference in any kind of way. So with him doing this, I mean, this is a big baller brand move. I tweeted out right after I saw this, if I'm an Oregon player and I hear Dan Lanning say that, I'm ready to go to war for him. And I'll say this, a couple Oregon players liked that tweet. So I think that they feel the same way. I'm hyped if I hear Dan Lanning say this. I'm an Oregon player. I'm absolutely jacked up because I've always said this, your persona of your head coach leaks into the persona of your team. And to hear your coach speak with this much confidence, to hear your coach have this kind of swag, if I'm a player, I'm like, all right, coach has got swag, I got swag. Coach is confident, I'm confident. Coach isn't worried about this kind of move. Coach isn't worried about the rest of the Pac-12. All right, let's roll, baby. Let's get after it. And this kind of feels a little bit like there's something to do with Deion Sanders here, and I can't prove it. There's nothing being linked to it. It's just my own feel on it. So there was so much bravado out of Colorado with Coach Prime when he got hired there and about bringing his Louis luggage and just about the way he's operated and the YouTube channel. Like, I'm not here to speak on that, but I feel just a little bit like Dan Lanning can't wait to play Colorado. Because that was the punchline on Twitter yesterday, right? Oh, well, Oregon, Colorado, September 23rd, that's going to be awesome, man. That's going to be a great storyline, great game. Like, no. Dan Lanning and Oregon are about to throttle Colorado on September 23rd. And Dan Lanning knows it. Dan Lanning is 100% aware that they have a better roster, more established roster, more built out. They're going to wax Colorado. Like, I know they're going to play. But this is not going to be let's settle it on the field kind of deal. Like Colorado, I think Coach Prime's got something cooking there, and I think eventually they're going to be in good shape, and I think that moving to the Big 12 helps them. But even so, man, like Dan Lanning is talking his cash because he knows what they're about to do in the Pac-12. And I think Colorado was the subject of this whole, conversation, which makes sense. But I think even so, man, take Colorado out of it, this was an interesting peek into the Oregon psyche and where they're at right now under Dan Lanning. And it kind of made me feel just a little bit, it kind of reminded me just a little bit of where Michigan was before they started winning Big Ten titles, going into that Big Ten championship year. Like Michigan, they hadn't won the Big Ten title, but they were still talking like they were the bully. And for Dan Lanning and for Oregon, I think you need to see yourself as the bully before everybody else gets to see it. Like it happens behind closed doors, what you do in conditioning in the weight room, in your staff meetings, like you prove it to yourself in the mirror behind closed doors before anybody else gets to see it on the field. And Michigan knew that before they won Big Ten titles. I think Dan Lanning's acting that way before they go and do what they want to do in the Pac-12 this coming season. They have every reason to believe that they can do that. I mean, they got to shore up some pieces in that roster defensively, but you bring back Bo Nix, you've got a rock-solid culture. You got one of the best young head coaches in the entire country who you just re-signed, and Dan Lanning, I believe, knows that he's one of the best head coaches in the country right now based on, I think, how he carries himself. Like, I think Oregon feels like they're them right now. They feel like they're the bully, and so they're acting like it. And Dan Lanning, for him to say something like this, like the other punchline you're going to hear about this is, well, the Pac-12 is probably going under. What's Oregon going to do? Like, I promise you, man, Oregon is just fine with all this realignment nonsense. And I say nonsense in a lighthearted way, but that's what it is right now. It's nonsense. Like, Oregon is going to end up just fine. Whether we get this matchup in the Big 12 going forward, whether Oregon goes to the Big 10, like, wherever they end up, Oregon is not one of those schools that's hanging on for dear life on the boat that is sinking, that is the Pac-12. Whenever Oregon wants to move to another conference, they're going to do so with ease. It's going to be fine, and they'll get a very big paycheck for doing so. So I don't think Oregon stays in the Pac-12, spoiler alert. But going to this season for Dan Lanning and for Oregon, I'm very excited for that Colorado game because it'll still be fun to watch the storylines going into it. And I promise you, Deion Sanders and his clapback will be nothing short of elite. But Dan Lanning and Oregon, they feel like they're the bully. They're making no mistakes about it. They're making no excuses about it. And that's how they're acting right now. And if I'm an Oregon player, again, I absolutely love this from the leader of my football team. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.